If you walk onto a classic car auction floor today, you are walking into a feeding frenzy of hidden money and regulatory arbitrage that the average driver cannot see. The average new restoration project in America is pushing $75,000. Shops are locking hobbyists into 18-month wait lists with hourly rates that rival divorce attorneys. But the price tag is not the worst part. The worst part is what you are actually getting for your money. When you buy a 1985 Mercedes or a 1990 Mustang, you are not buying a classic. You are buying a rapidly depreciating compliance burden. A rolling emissions test failure that tracks every mile you drive, that is mathematically designed to drain your bank account the second the smog equipment fails, and that can be legally barred from public roads by a single bureaucratic signature. But a quiet rebellion is building in barns and dry storage facilities across the country. Veteran collectors, engine builders, and smart investors are completely opting out of the post-emissions classic market. They're using a strategy called the Smog-Exempt Loophole, and today I'm going to show you exactly how it works. To understand the loophole, you first have to understand the trap. Look under the hood of any vehicle built after 1975. The elegant carburetor is gone. The simple mechanical fuel pump is gone. The clean exhaust manifold is gone. In their place is a rat's nest of vacuum hoses, catalytic converters, oxygen sensors, EGR valves, and evaporative canisters that turn a straightforward engine bay into a Byzantine nightmare. The EPA will tell you this is environmental protection. That is a lie. A single cheap catalytic converter is dramatically more profitable for parts manufacturers than a lifetime of simple carburetor rebuilds. This is regulatory capture disguised as public health, and it is a ticking time bomb for your wallet. In a 1969 Camaro, if your fuel system needs attention, you rebuild the carburetor with a $40 kit, a screwdriver, and a Saturday afternoon. In a 1985 vehicle, the computer-controlled feedback carburetor requires specialized gauges, a shop manual the size of a phone book, and constant recalibration just to pass biennial inspection. When the catalytic converter inevitably melts down from running rich, or the oxygen sensor fouls from leaded fuel residue, you lose your registration privileges. The car becomes legally undrivable. And when you bring it to the smog station, they cannot repair the system. They replace the entire emissions control assembly and hand you a bill for $3,000 to $5,000. Your classic has been bureaucratically totaled by a vacuum leak.
But the smog equipment is just the bait. The real scam is running quietly in the background. Every vehicle rolling off the assembly line after 1996 is equipped with OBD2 diagnostics and a constant cellular connection. In modern resto-mods, you are storing a 3,000-pound surveillance device in your garage. These systems actively monitor how often you start the engine, how many miles you accumulate, and exactly where you trailer the car every single weekend. And the horrifying truth recently became public. State DMVs have been quietly sharing this registration data with insurance underwriters and municipal tax assessors. Collectors across California and New York are watching their registration fees triple overnight, not because they drive the car, but because their own vehicle reported itself as active to a database. You are paying $75,000 for the privilege of being monitored and taxed by the machine sitting under your own car cover. And the mechanical restoration under the hood is just as compromised. To hit extreme federal emissions mandates, manufacturers abandoned simple proven engines. They are cramming computer-controlled fuel injection, variable valve timing, and exhaust gas recirculation into platforms that were never designed for the complexity. The extreme heat cycles cook wiring harnesses. The constant vacuum pressure splits rubber diaphragms. These systems are grenades with 10,000-mile fuses. The entire post-1975 classic market is a trap, but there is an escape hatch. The smog-exempt loophole targets a specific window of automotive history. Collectors call it the golden era of unregulated performance, from roughly 1965 to 1974. Why 1975? That is the year the EPA mandated catalytic converters and unleaded fuel across the entire American auto industry. Vehicles from the pre-1975 era have mechanical carburation, meaning they respond to a screwdriver and intuition. They have distributors with points and condensers you can set with a feeler gauge and a matchbook cover. They have chrome bumpers, vent windows, and heavy-gauge steel bodies. But because they were built before 1975, they carry zero regulatory poison. No smog inspections, no OBD2 monitors reporting your mileage, no evaporative emission canisters rotting in the trunk. They use mechanical fuel pumps, glass fuses, and analog tachometers you can calibrate with a timing light. You get all the presence of American muscle with none of the compliance costs or surveillance infrastructure.
So, what exactly do you buy? You look for the analog legends. Open Hemmings Motor News and search for a late 1960s or early 1970s Chevrolet Chevelle or Pontiac GTO. You want the 4-barrel carburetor models. These engines use thick cast iron blocks with solid lifters and forged crankshafts. They are mated to turbo-hydromatic transmissions with real physical torque converters and simple valve bodies. These drivetrains are famous for clearing 200,000 miles on nothing more than periodic timing adjustments. If you need European sophistication, look for a 1973 Mercedes-Benz with the 4.5-liter V8 or an early Jaguar E-Type with the 4.2-liter inline-six. These were engineered before the malaise era strangled performance. Dual exhausts without catalytic restriction. Mechanical fuel injection on the Mercedes that can be rebuilt with standard tools. If you want the ultimate loophole vehicle, look for the Ford Panther platform predecessor, the Ford Galaxy and LTD from 1965 to 1974. Body-on-frame construction like a heavy-duty truck. A massive, unstoppable 390 or 429 cubic inch V8 running at incredibly low stress. Because they were fleet vehicles and police interceptors, every replacement part is available through reproduction catalogs and junkyard networks. You can find a dry-stored Galaxy 500 from an estate sale for $12,000, and it will outlast a restored 1985 BMW in both value appreciation and driving pleasure.
Here is how you execute the loophole. You do not finance through specialty lenders. You save $15,000 to $25,000 in cash. You avoid the glossy auction houses with the velvet ropes and the 10% buyer's premiums. You buy directly from estate sales, barn finds, and widow sellers who see an old car instead of a smog-exempt asset. You look for the physical indicators of a forever classic. A chrome bumper that can be re-chromed rather than replaced with plastic. A radiator with a mechanical fan and shroud rather than electric auxiliary cooling. A carburetor with 4 venturis and manual choke rather than electronic feedback control. When you buy a pre-1975 analog classic, you are not just buying automotive history, you are severing the regulatory pipeline that lets states track you, tax your hobby, and hold a bureaucratic veto over your property. If you are learning something from this, hit subscribe. I cover the regulatory scams and restoration traps hidden inside the collector car market every single week. Now, the emissions compliance industry is not the only cartel using the illusion of environmental protection to drain your bank account. The exact same playbook is being run right now inside your garage. If you want to see why the tools you bought at Sears are mathematically guaranteed to fail and how to execute the heritage tool loophole to beat the disposable tool monopoly, click the video on your screen right now.